Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. How is everybody doing, by the way? And, oh, wow, already, just as we start, already JF coming in being a new fish. Thank you so much, dude. But hopefully everything has been going well for you guys. And I will say on my end, things have been going great. In fact, a lot of progress is being done with my videos, and I feel like I'm already prepared with everything for this month, including the holidays. And I'll even say that, yes, I am even prepared with my videos where during the weekend, I went to see the SpongeBob movie Search for SquarePants early. So yes, expect an early review of the film, which will be coming out this week, or specifically on the same day that the movie, oh, excuse me, I don't know where that came from, but yes, expect the review to come out on the same day as the feature. At least on YouTube. You will get it before if you are on Patreon. But back to what I was talking about. You know, what's very interesting is that beforehand, I contemplated about having an episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, considering that before, in terms of animation news and even a bit of movie news as well, things have been rather dry. So I was thinking about delaying it until next week. But considering the amount of news or the amount of breaking news that we have gotten, I felt like, you know what, might as well get this out of the way and actually talk about it now while it is still fresh, while it is still happening, and while this is like still on our minds, especially when a lot of these are very significant and not to mention very tragic. I'll even warn you right now that this might end up becoming one of the saddest episodes of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, considering that there will be a couple of stories where we will be discussing about the tragic passings of some fan favorite names. But at the same time, we do have some other news that we will be covering at the same time. So even though it will be a bit bittersweet with this overall episode, hopefully we will still come out and have a good time. So, with that said, oh, and by the way, I almost forgot about one thing, and I'm just going to go and say right now, just in case, there might be a chance that this could be the final episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast this year. If I don't make an episode for next week, then that means we are officially going to be on holiday break, and then I will catch up with you guys in January. So just going to let you all know now, it will depend if we are going to be getting enough materials to work with to go and have another episode for next week, but we shall see. So I just want to go and have that out of the way just in case. I could be wrong and maybe we'll have another new one, but if not though, then I'll just say now, happy holidays to you all, and I'll see you all next year. But anyways, with all that said, it is now time we shall go into the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, are you ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Now let me hear it, folks. Are you ready? All right, so let's see. Yes, okay. Oh, there we go. I see. Now we got some new people in. That is great to see. We are now ready. We are now set. And I believe that all means that it is now time that we shall go and get things started. And with our first story that I have for you today, we actually have a trailer to go and watch. No, it is not going to be the animated one, considering the distributor that they decided to go and pick. It might as well be as good as dead, so I'm going to be completely ignoring that one. But I'm going to be checking out instead a different one where it might be a live action movie, but still though, it is worth checking out, especially when this is among one of the most anticipated movies of 2026. Especially when this cinematic universe in particular is off to an amazing start with the movie that came out this summer. So, without further ado, let us go ahead and begin by checking out the teaser trailer for the upcoming DC movie, Supergirl. And that is Supergirl, to which the movie is going to be coming out in theaters on June 26th. And I just want to go out by starting this by saying that I did see the new Superman movie during the summer, and honestly, I had an absolute blast with it. In fact, I remember during that time, I actually saw both the 2025 Superman and Fantastic Four First Steps, and both of those films are great. But I have to admit that I kind of like the Superman movie a little bit more. And I feel like James Gunn was able to really nail the character in a way that we haven't seen in a big motion picture like this in a long time. Like really capturing the personality and the charisma of Clark Kent himself, rather it be in his journalist mode or as Superman. The way that he started off establishing his version of the DC cinematic universe is very fascinating, and even the other characters are just so hilarious, and they are great as well. The visual effects are absolutely stunning. Even the story is highly engaging. So I feel like as a superhero movie, it really worked out tremendously. And I feel like this new version of DC really brought back the fun of superhero films that have been missing for such a long time, or at least in terms of this franchise. It was absolutely missing with the Zack Snyder cinematic universe, but now we see that it is back, and now we can fully get engaged with it. So yes, all to say that I personally had a great time with the new Superman film. And watching this trailer with Supergirl, honestly, this also has me very curious. And there's something that I gotta point out that I kind of find it funny, because the thing is that with this movie, this is not directed by James Gunn. It's not like the this year's Superman. Instead, with this one, it is stated here that it is directed by Craig Gillespie. I don't know if there's a specific moment where it would go and point that out. Actually, considering we are at the end of the trailer, it's like, yeah, right over here, that it's directed by Craig Gillespie. And the thing with Craig Gillespie is that he actually, nowadays, he really specializes in having movies that star bad girls, or regardless if their roles are a little bit more antagonistic or protagonistic. He really does have this knack for making movies that star very troubled women and who can be very rebellious or go by their own rules, or they could just be straight up lawbreakers. We've seen that with I, Tonya, and we also saw that with Cruella. And I know that many people make jokes about Cruella, especially with that stupid origin story with the Dalmatians killing her mother, and the fact that, yes, it is another Disney live action remake. But I will say, in my opinion, I think it's honestly one of the better ones. If you ignore the connections with 101 Dalmatians, if you just look at it as its own thing and forget about the Disney animated movie, it's actually a pretty solid film on its own. But going back to what I was talking about, So he did I, Tonya, Cruella. So honestly, it feels like a great fit that he would go and do Supergirl, especially when she is established as like a total wreck, like the kind of party girl who would rather go and like think more about herself. She's already at the point where she has this nihilistic mentality, like the world's gonna blow up anyway, so might as well make the most out of it with like sex, drugs, and rock and roll and all that kind of stuff. So like we already got a taste of her attitude in the Superman movie at the end, which honestly was a fun, hilarious moment. And now seeing her with her own movie where we get to really see more of it, it's going to be very fascinating. But to go back to what I was talking about, why this trailer I find to be very funny is that when you look at it, despite the fact that this is going to be directed by David Gillespie, I personally feel like I see this, and it's strangely enough, it's more of a James Gunn movie than the Superman movie. You get what I mean? I feel like I look at this, and there's like a lot of those traits that you would find in a James Gunn feature, especially with the protagonist who's more like a rebel or an outlaw or kind of like a bad person turned good in a way. The use of pop songs like in the trailer right over here that really blasts out Blondie. Although I know that with Dave Gillespie, he also did the same thing with Cruella. But you get those, and then there's of course like all the crazy action that ensues, and also the heart feels like it's going to be prominently big, especially when you're going to be looking into Supergirl's backstory and what is it that led her to kind of become a bit of a wreck right now. So honestly, I feel like this is going to be a very intriguing feature. And honestly, I'm not going to say that I'm totally hyped up for it, but I feel like this is going to be a pretty fun film. And I think the best way to say is that while this is not among my most anticipated movies of this year, I am honestly very curious to see what is in store. I am going to be curious, or not curious, actually more optimistic, actually. Like, this looks like it's going to be a fun feature. And I mean, not to mention, of course, we get the amazing comeback of our boy Crypto. You know, like immediately Crypto's going to be coming back for another feature. I mean, I loved him in the first. He was a lot of fun, and now he's going to be back with more of his mischief. That's already great right there. So honestly, like I said, I'm optimistic to see what's going to be in store. How it's going to be as a movie, I'm not 100% sure, but it looks like it does have a lot of great promise. I guess for me, I feel like I don't know if this is going to be something that will be on par or even greater than what we just got with Superman, because let's be honest, James Gunn really set a high bar for that one. But that won't change that maybe this one could also turn out to be pretty good. So yeah, honestly, Superman already got me on board with the DC cinematic universe. So now I'm ready to see what's going to be in store with Supergirl. So if you guys are interested in checking out Supergirl, then keep in mind that it'll be coming out in theaters on June 26. And now with that said, I'd like to go and pass this on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you guys think about the Supergirl teaser trailer? Are you guys excited to go and check this one out? Are you guys a little bit hesitant? Do you have any additional questions that you would like to know about what could be happening in Supergirl? And also, might as well go and try out a poll for this one. So let me just go and immediately write this down to see what you will have to say. And what can I go and ask? Actually, I might as well go and ask right now. Will you be checking out Supergirl? So I'll go and write down yes. And I'll write down no. Or actually, will you go... Actually, I'll change it to... will you go and watch? I think I put up the caps right there. Okay, there we go. Will you go and watch Supergirl? And now let's see what the chat wall has to say. Okay. I'd say for me, anticipating but not optimistic. I am impressed for the trailer and it's very action-packed, but there were some parts here and there that's just kind of loses me a little bit. I don't know. I feel like I didn't like too much of the rebellious attitude. Oh, funny enough, as I was reading this commenter's comment, he actually became a new fish. So thank you very much, Alan. Anyways, where was it? I feel like I didn't know too much of the rebellious attitude and some of the gross jokes, but maybe I'm just nitpicking since it also gave me the same feel like Guardians and Cruella, and that's what really sells me into it. Maybe not high for me on 2026, but certainly I will watch it when I have the chance. All right. Let's see. This trailer really impressed me. I really enjoyed the recent Superman movie, and this looks like a very solid spin-off. Visually, it's really impressive. The action is a lot of fun. They nailed Supergirl's personality. Krypto is back, and I'm glad Jason Momoa is getting a second chance as Lobo. So overall, I'm very excited for this. The only annoying part is the anti-woke grifters hating this because hate strong women. Yes, of course we're going to get another bunch of those. So, oh boy, are they still even relevant? I don't know. I feel like it's funny because nowadays I feel like those anti-woke grifters, like your quarterings, your Geeks Plus gamers, your critical drinkers, their influence don't feel as strong as they used to be. Like their relevancy is like dying so quick and their shtick is becoming so old that basically they're becoming irrelevant, and their channels, like when I would hear about them, it's usually of the fact that their business is pretty much dying. So are they really that much trouble? Are they really that much of a nuisance anymore? I don't know. They're better off getting their channels deleted and finding another job if they actually do care about their families. All right. Let's see what we got here. As a major 2025 Superman stan, this looks like it'll be a really fun follow-up. Not only is it a unique take on the character, but the action is pretty fun and the set design is really cool. This is going to make for a good watch. But I gotta note one thing that is missing. Where is Faye Dunaway being horny for 2 hours? If you know, you know. Keep in mind, dude, this is a trailer, or this is a teaser trailer. So, of course, they're not going to reveal everything just yet. Maybe they'll save the horniness for 2026. All right. By the way, the timer just ended on the poll, and it looks like most of you are very optimistic, even to the point that 83% of you have said that, yes, you are gonna go see Supergirl, while only 17% have said no. So very interesting results right there. Let's see what else we got here. I am loving James Gunn's take on DC Universe, and I'm looking forward to a new Supergirl movie. Unfortunately, it's been seeing a negative discourse on this movie, and it's not related to Snyder fans, but it's more of this story based on a comic by Tom King, who's written great comics, but also has a background as a CIA agent in the war of Iraq and Afghanistan. So all I've seen is people accusing WB of supporting a war criminal. Ooh, boy, yeah. That is honestly going to be another, that's like a whole different topic right there. And honestly, I'm not as educated on this particular subject to go and really discuss about this. So I'll save that for another time. But yeah, that feels like a can of worms that I'm just not ready to go and open. Let's see what other comments are there. Looks fine for a DC movie. Did saw the James Gunn Superman movie on my return flight from Montreal to Paris, but I'm more interested in the upcoming Markiplier movie Iron Lung. Also, Krypto is the best use of AI animation. Sorry for that hot take. Wait, what? Excuse me, sir? To be honest, I'm not a huge watcher of either the MCU or the DCU. Yeah, well, one thing that I will say, I don't know if it's going to be coming out outside of the US, but I'm honestly a big Markiplier fan, and if Iron Lung does come out in Canada, I would be so down to go and check that out. I mean, I want to support the dude as much as I can, so going to see Iron Lung, honestly, if I do get the chance for that, I would totally be down for it. Let's see. What other comments would there be to go and read? With 2025 coming to an end, we can always look up to this teaser, and it's already a case in point. However, I'm more excited for Coyote versus Acme. So far, will be set higher than the high-flying, oh wait, that's a different studio, they gotta sue me. All right, what other comments are there? It's hard to say if this will hit the same heights as the newest Superman movie, but Supergirl could be a fun time. Mostly have this on my radar simply due to Crypto. He was the highlight of Superman 2025. Maybe it will strike twice. By the way, since you're not discussing Animal Farm, I take it we shouldn't expect an AniMat's reviews of David. Nah, I don't know if I've already made it clear, but I mean, if it's from Angel Studios, I ain't touching that crap no matter what. I don't care if they're putting out a straight up Christian film like David or something like Animal Farm. I do not trust that studio whatsoever. I don't even care if they keep sending me godforsaken press releases and screener invites for their features. I ain't gonna take the bait. I'm not the kind who would want to go and actually support what they do. If you really want someone to go and actually jump into all these weird Christian movies and stuff like that, go and talk to Saber Spark. All right, so now that I established that, I think I'm going to go and read one more comment, and then I'm just going to go on the first break. So anyways, let's see now. This looks so Guardians of the Galaxy-ish, and yet it sells me even more. I like how they made Supergirl a complete wreck, and that made me laugh even more. And since this is directed by the same guy who directed Cruella, since I really enjoyed that movie as well, I get the feeling that the new DCU is off to a better start since James Gunn is involved. Maybe it's not my most hyped movie of 2026, but I'm also excited at the same time. All right, so with that said, I definitely do see a lot of enthusiasm for Supergirl. So with all that said, if you are excited to go and check out the movie, then keep in mind that it will be coming out in theaters on June 26th. And with that said, we are going to go on to our first break. And when we do come back, well, sadly, we are going to be getting into the somber part of this episode, as we will be going into, I guess you could say, the in memoriam section of, well, the episode. So stay tuned for that. Welcome back. Now, when it comes to the next two stories that I have here, we are going to be looking into the lives that we have unfortunately lost and some of the familiar names that are unfortunately no longer with us. And this is only some of the names that have sadly passed away. In fact, I did notice the chat wall even did bring up one that was actually from closer to home, which was actually, if I do recall the name, just to go and check. Yeah, right over here. Someone even mentioned Beatrice Picard, a longtime actress from Quebec, who is also known as the French-Canadian voice of Marge. Now, as a Montrealer, of course, I have seen in the news everywhere about her passing. But what I want to talk about specifically is not going to be about Beatrice Picard, but instead, it's actually going to be about two actors who have a lot in common. And unfortunately, their deaths also have a lot in common. So with that said, let's go and discuss about the passing of Jeff Garcia. Yes, comedian and actor Jeff Garcia has been announced to be deceased at the age of 50. Now, to go into the specifics as to what happened to him, reading from my source here on The Hollywood Reporter, it states that Jeff Garcia's death was announced on Instagram by his son, Joseph. According to TMZ, he has suffered a cerebral aneurysm in the spring and a stroke more recently and died at a Southern California hospital after being taken off life support. Now, of course, with his comedy, he is also known as not just an actor, but a voice actor. And the most famous role that he did is playing as Sheen Estevez in Jimmy Neutron, both in the feature film and in the animated series, along with all the different specials. Like, this guy is known as Sheen. And on top of that, the other roles that he has played throughout his career, he also provided the voice of Pip the Mouse from the movie Barnyard, as well as the series Back at the Barnyard. The other roles that he had played, just to go down the, there's also, it mentions quickly that he did do some quick, just showing up quickly on shows like Caroline in the City and Dangerous Minds. But more specifically, it's right over here where it mentions a lot of his animated roles and performances that he has done, where it says that Garcia also voiced the penguin Ronaldo, one of the amigos in the Happy Feet films that were released in 2006 and 2011, and handled several characters in the Rio features from 2011 and 2014. His voice acting resume also included Marmaduke, specifically the 2010 movie, and the stints on Clone High, Ozzy and Drix, Chalk Zone, and The Proud Family, and was a regular on the 2012-2013 CW live-action sitcom Mr. Box Office, starring Bill Bellamy. But it's not just Jeff Garcia who passed away, because literally on the same day, there was another actor who is known to play a fan favorite Nickelodeon character who sadly passed away as well, and that was Jim Ward. Yes, Jim Ward on the same day was announced to have passed away, this time at the age of 66. It was actually announced by his radio co-host Stephanie Miller, where she stated on Twitter, reading from my source here on People, stating, "One of the saddest messages I have ever received from the amazing Mrs. Jim Ward. Our wonderful voice deity and Steph anointed Jim Ward passed away today at 10:45 a.m. Can you let Steph know? Thanks, Janice." And the reason why he passed away, just to read you in the bottom right over here, it states that per IGN, Ward experienced a severe case of COVID-19 in 2021 following his hospitalization related to a memory issue that reportedly paralyzed him for 4 months. Later on, Ward developed Alzheimer's disease. And while he is known as a radio host and a voice actor, probably his most famous role that he did is actually be the voice of Doug Dimmadome, who you may know as the owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome from the Fairly Odd Parents. And on top of that, he is also a very prolific voice actor. Like, he's done tons of work, especially for both television and video games. Like, if you go onto his IMDb page, on his Wikipedia page, you'll find that he has done a lot of noteworthy shows. Like, there are a few, or most of them are just like small roles, like in either King of the Hill or Totally Spies or Hey Arnold or even Time Squad, where he played Paul Revere. He also did appear in shows like Danny Phantom. Another prominent series that he was in is Ben 10, where he played the roles of Diamond Head, XLR8, Windvine, and more, as well as other voices where he was the headmaster in Avatar: The Last Airbender. He also had another small role in Back in the Barnyard. He was in We Bare Bears. He was in the new Looney Looney Tunes, and even in terms of games, or actually, let's go into movies, because there's a lot that he has actually done that's pretty noteworthy, because he has also done some small roles for movies like Pixar's Cars, for WALL-E, for the Toy Story short Small Fry. Of course, he did a bunch of like the Ben 10 and Fairly Odd Parents TV movies. He also did like small additional voices for like Despicable Me 2 and Inside Out. He also went and did a bunch of the direct-to-home media DC movies like Superman, Batman Apocalypse, Batman The Dark Knight Returns, Batman Return of the Caped Crusaders, and Superman Red Sun. And then when you look into the video games, in fact, another prominent voice that he has done is that Jim Ward is the voice of Captain Quark from the Ratchet and Clank games. And as I mentioned before, since he did develop Alzheimer's disease, it was the explanation as to why he did not return to play as Quark in one of the more recent ones, or the latest one, Drift Apart. But still, though, like on top of playing as Captain Quark, he was. Was there one that I mispronounced, by the way? I just checked the chat wall and some people are saying it's pronounced Wildvine. Did I say that wrong? If I did, I do apologize. But anyways, back to what I was... Rift Apart. Okay, well, there is... Rift Apart. Sorry, that's what I meant. Not Drift Apart, Rift Apart. Okay. But to go back to what I was talking about in terms of his other video game roles, on top of Captain Quark, he is also known to have played characters in like he was a German officer in 2003's Call of Duty. Another prominent one that he did was Jack Krauser in Resident Evil 4. He also played Alexander Granin in Metal Gear Solid 3. He also appeared in many other major games, like he was in Killer 7. He was in the Destroy All Humans games. He was also in Mad World, the 2009 Wolfenstein remake. He was also in BioShock 2. He was also Belial. I think that's how you say his name. But then again, I've been on a bad streak so far when it comes to pronouncing character names. But yeah, he was Belial in Diablo 3. He was also in BioShock 2. He was in BioShock 2. He was in Fallout 4. He was in Batman Arkham Knight and several others. Like, this dude has a very rich career in terms of voice acting. But I will say it is very tragic to see that both of these are gone. And especially, like, as I mentioned before, like, these two somehow, they got major connections, considering that they are both voices for fan favorite Nickelodeon characters, where one is the voice of Sheen and the other is the voice of Doug Dimmadome, especially when on top of being fan favorites, they're also very popular in terms of memes. And that definitely is the case of Sheen. I mean, I'm sure, like, if you've been on social media long enough, you have seen at least one time where someone used Sheen as a meme, especially to present like probably the most famous meme with Sheen is like when he would present Ultra Lord with the class, like in the movie specifically. It was like, "This is Ultra Lord," and then you got Miss Fowl on the side going, "Sheen, that's the 7th time you showed Ultra Lord in class." Oh man, but honestly, looking back at these characters, and the very interesting thing is that in the summer, I actually just revisited Jimmy Neutron. Like, it was a long time since I've seen anything from Jimmy Neutron, rather it be from the series or even the movie itself. So revisiting that, I gotta say, was definitely a nostalgic blast. And even revisiting Sheen as a character is just a lot of fun. And it definitely gave me that fresh reminder how he was pretty much the personification of hyperfixation, because his personality was literally all about Ultra Lord. Like, probably 80% of his entire brain is all about Ultra Lord trivia and the history of Ultra Lord and all that kind of stuff. Which is exactly why some people have argued that maybe Sheen might have been autistic coded, considering that a common trait with people with autism is that they would have strong hyperfixations. And I mean, for anybody listening or watching who are autistic, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I do feel like that is a common notable trait in terms of those with autism. Maybe not with everyone who has autism, but often when they do have a hyperfixation, the hyperfixation is absolutely strong. But when we do see characters like Sheen, yes, there is a lot that a lot of it is played for laughs, but at the same time, there is an element of relatability, regardless if Sheen actually was autistic or not, or if you are watching it and you are either autistic or not. There is an element where Sheen does have that sense of relatability, especially when the dude is very much unapologetically a kid, especially the kind where he's at the point where he hasn't like fully matured yet, or like he still has like a long way to go and hit puberty, where his life is all about his cartoons or his hyperfixations and stuff like that. And even the idea of girls is just gross and disgusting. So just seeing like the comedic elements that Sheen would go and provide, it's just a lot of fun. And I'll just say, I understand people give a lot of crap to the spin-off series Planet Sheen and that it's not great. I personally cannot go and fully comment on that. I personally haven't seen any of the episodes of that. I've only heard people like being upset with it and saying how much they hate the show. But when you think about Sheen and how he is in the movie and in the series, I don't blame Nickelodeon for wanting to try to make a Sheen spin-off series, because he is such a great character. And a big part of his personality and what makes him great and funny is because of Jeff Garcia, because of his performance, because of how he would make Sheen like bombastic, and sometimes he would always be like over his head, and he would be like the kind who would seem like he knows what he's doing, but he actually has no idea. Debatably the dumbest one between him, Jimmy, and Carl. So in that regards, like I think a big part of what makes Sheen a great character is because of Jeff Garcia. And when we would go and move towards Jim Ward, honestly, as an actor myself, I feel like this dude is an admirable person, especially with the prolific career that he has that spans across film, television, and video games, that he really gets to live a great career as a voice actor and even manage to grab some roles that are just a lot of fun, that are very memorable, and that fans really do love. Like with Doug Dimmadome, for example. Of course, like there's a lot of the play on words that he would go and perform, but it's really because of his execution that really made it a lot of fun. I mean, like when you talk about his character, it's hard not to go and say like the full name of him along with the additional details. It's like you can't just discuss about Doug Dimmadome. Like you have to really go and add in Doug Dimmadome, owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome. Like that feels like his full name. It feels more comfortable to go and say all that instead of just saying Doug Dimmadome. And the execution of his lines are just absolutely great, especially with the kind of comedy that he would go and deliver with Doug Dimmadome. But I will say, however, that one role that really stands out more for me that I really enjoy from him is actually Captain Quark. Because a little while back, I actually did play the original Ratchet and Clank on the PS2. And prior to that, my only impression, like the only thing that I really knew about Ratchet and Clank was from the movie. And I think it is safe to say that feature was just absolute trash. But then when I played the original game that the movie was based on, honestly, I had a blast with it. And it's not just because the game was a lot of fun, but also the personalities and the humor are fantastic. And that is especially with Captain Quark being like this stereotype of a superhero, but also a guy who is just a complete sellout. Like, I kind of did enjoy that twist. I mean, like, yeah, it would seem a bit predictable, whereas like the character who would seem like a hero but turns out to be a bad guy. But in this case here with Captain Quark, again, a lot of it is because of the execution and because of Jim Ward's performance as Captain Quark, where he would really go out of his way just to make him like just this goofy stereotype of a superhero. And you could see the arc that he would get into where the dude really is all about his own fame and glory, to the point that he would not hesitate to sell himself out and suddenly just become the bad guy, to the point where he would become one of the bosses. Honestly, like Captain Quark in that original game was honestly fantastic and like just a great time. So now I could say that I really have turned over a new leaf when it comes to Ratchet and Clank. And yes, when it comes to the games themselves, they are absolutely fantastic. And honestly, I feel so sorry for you Ratchet and Clank fans for what you ended up getting with that movie. You deserve a much better film adaptation of that franchise, especially with how big it has become right now. But yeah, honestly, that's just from my personal experiences with these two actors, or at least from like, from consuming, the roles that they have played. And honestly, they provide a lot of great, funny roles. And it's just so sad to hear not just the fact that they both passed away, but it's also the fact that they both passed away on the same day, and that they sadly died young. I mean, you got one who passed away at 50 and another at 66. Like, they still had a good amount of time ahead of them, but then suddenly health complications came in and suddenly just took that away. And it really does suck. And not to mention, like, as I said before, there is the factor that they're both often known to have played fan favorite Nickelodeon characters. So from there, like, all these coincidences would go and occur. And it just, honestly, it sucks. It really does. It's just sad to hear how these two are gone, and now we're just left with the memories of the performances that they have provided. So when it comes to both Jim Ward and Jeff Garcia, may I say, may they both rest in peace, and may the legacy of their voices forever live on. So with that said, now I would like to pass this down to the chat wall, and I would like to go and ask you all, do you have any memories that you would like to share in relation to Jeff Garcia or Jim Ward in terms of the performances that they have done, whether it be in movies, shows, or video games, or with characters like Sheen or Pip, or Doug Dimmadome, or Captain Quark, or any of the other characters? Feel free to go and share your little stories. Now, let's see what we got here. As someone who grew up with Ben 10, I am sad to hear that Jim Ward had died. A bit sad, and also the news of Jeff Garcia is even sadder, especially his voice work as Sheen in Jimmy Neutron and Pip from Barnyard. It really is sad, but hey, the great thing I could say is if you are discussing it, Dick Van Dyke did turn 100, something June Foray and Betty White didn't get to have. Yeah, you know, that is funny, because that is kind of like the little silver lining, because just a few days ago, it is true that Dick Van Dyke did officially become 100 years old, and he's still kicking. He's still having a great time with life. So, that's one nice thing to go and see. So, like, it's true that amongst all the deaths that did occur, it's nice to look back that, we still got some great legends who are still with us today. Let's see now. Sheen was among my favorite characters in Jimmy Neutron next to Hugh, and on Fairly Odd Parents, Doug Dimmadome definitely had his moments, all thanks to the phenomenal voices of both Garcia and Ward. Their vocal deliveries were immaculate with some phenomenal comedic timing, and their passings have left a major hole in the industry. May they both rest in peace, and may their legacies live on forever. Man, that's honestly, like, amazing. And honestly, like, coming from you, JF, I feel like it's quite surprising, because I know, like, you always have like some kind of little quip or like a little snappy joke to come with it, but in this case here, it's like, man, you left out the jokes and put in all heart on that. Like, wow. Honestly, it's like, wow, I don't even know if I could like put it in the way that you did. That is beautiful right there. Anyways, for Jeff, I hate to say this, but it's just a cruel coincidence. After your review, I got myself back into rewatching Jimmy Neutron, and if I had to establish, the most funniest was from either Carl and Sheen, and how Jeff delivered really sells the comedy. Even in Planet Sheen, even if it wasn't good, he did try it, and that's okay. Even at one point, I thought they could make not a revival, but a sequel to Jimmy Neutron, but that died alongside him. One fan to another, I'll even miss his beautiful singing voice. Yeah, the funny thing is that while I was working on that Jimmy Neutron review, I did see how there were some discussions about the possibility of having a Jimmy Neutron revival, that Nickelodeon has considered it. But now I feel like I think it's done. I don't think there's a point to really go and bring it back, because yes, you do have the other voice actors and they're still great. They're still around. But honestly, without Jeff Garcia playing as Sheen, you're missing a very vital part of Jimmy Neutron. So honestly, if we don't have Sheen anymore, then it's probably for the best that we don't bring back Jimmy Neutron, at least in my opinion. Let's see what else we have here. So for this story, I'm very saddened that Jeff Garcia and Jim Ward have passed away as a fan of Jimmy Neutron and Ratchet and Clank. For Jimmy Neutron, Sheen was the funniest character to the point of both the film and the series, especially when it comes to his love for Ultra Lords. So I'm sorry to see that Jeff Garcia is gone. For Jim Ward, I love him playing as the despicable Captain Quark in the games. Glad you appreciate the original game on your review, though. Yeah, I will say, like, I feel like I did mess up for bad-mouthing the franchise and the fans on the movie review. Honestly, it's one of those where I feel like I would redo that Ratchet and Clank movie review, like, just to be more respectable, not because I would think that, oh, maybe the movie deserves a second chance. But with that said, though, I will say, yeah, it is very sad to see them gone. Let's see now. Last week has been a very sad time for Nickelodeon fans. The fact that we lost not one, but two well-known voice actors on the same day is very heartbreaking and sad. For Jeff Garcia, I always enjoyed his roles as Sheen and Pip, the latter of whom is I remember the most since I used to watch Barnyard a lot as a kid. For Jim Ward, I only know him as Captain Quark and the announcer in WALL-E. May these well-known voice actors rest in peace, and may these contributions contribute. Oh, there it is. Continue to live on. I was feeling something in my stomach that's just coming up, but I try to fight back, but eventually it's out. Anyways, okay, yeah, I don't think I've read this one. I'll read two more and then we're going to move on to our next break. These are definitely tragic losses. I remember back when I was a kid, I used to watch a lot of Nickelodeon shows. Jimmy Neutron and Fairly Odd Parents were some of my favorites, with Jeff Garcia alongside, aside from Hugh Neutron, Sheen was one of the funniest characters, especially with his obsession with Ultra Lord. As for Jim Ward, I honestly remember Doug Dimmadome being a fun character and having his moments, especially with his full name. So overall, may both of these actors rest in peace. Let's see if there's another one to read. Okay, I'll go with, let's see. I'll go with you, actually. Let's see. This was sad to hear. Jimmy Neutron and Fairly Odd Parents were two shows I enjoyed a lot as a kid. Losing not just Sheen, but also the man behind Chet You Betcha was not fun to hear. I even rewatched one of my favorite Jimmy Neutron episodes, Grumpy Young Men, to honor him. May he enjoy all the purple florp he wants in the afterlife. So yeah, I mean, you all have said it best. May they both rest in peace, and may their legacy forever live on. So now we're going to go on to our next break. And when we do come back, there is another death to go and highlight here. And this is one that was very unexpected, especially when this happened literally last night, or the night before I am recording this here. So stay tuned, and we will be discussing about another passing, but this time of a Hollywood legend. Welcome back. Now, when it comes to our next story, this is another massive tragedy that did occur. And I just want to start this off by going on a little bit of a side note, but this is also worth mentioning, considering that as I am recording this, we are at the start of Hanukkah. But sadly, it did start off on a terrible note, sadly, especially with what happened in Bondi, Australia, when there was a terrorist attack who decided to go and unleash some very dangerous anti-Semitism upon the people, where there were unfortunately some casualties that did occur. And when I say some real anti-Semitism, I mean the kind that really is like the true definitive anti-Semitism that we've seen in history, not the fake kind that people use to go and silence Palestinian supporters. I mean like true, legitimate Nazi-style anti-Semitism that happened in Bondi, Australia. But there was a little bit of silver lining that happened during that time, when there was a Muslim man by the name of Ahmed Al-Ahmed who was able to go and disarm one of the gunmen and actually stop the guy on his tracks, in which, because of his bravery, he was able to go and save many lives, and was able to go and significantly reduce the amount of casualties that would have happened in that incident. So I just want to go and give a special shout out to the Muslim man, Ahmed Al-Ahmed, who is now noted to be a true hero. But what I want to go and talk about is related to a different tragedy. And even though this isn't related to the fact that who passed away is Jewish, like, yes, they are Jewish, so it kind of makes it a bit of a transition, but it's not because of his Judaism that he passed away. But still, though, it is worth discussing. So without further ado, in fact, I'll even say right now, I actually considered to delay this episode because it felt like there wasn't that much news to go and discuss. But when this showed up, that's when I knew I got to go and talk about this. So let's get right into it and discuss about the passing of Rob Reiner. Yes, legendary director, producer, writer, and actor Rob Reiner has sadly passed away at the age of 78. And the thing with Rob Reiner is that the way that he died, that is honestly the real tragedy, because unlike the previous two that I mentioned with Jeff Garcia and Jim Ward, where they passed away due to health complications, Rob Reiner was unfortunately straight up murdered. In fact, to go and read you a little bit here from my source, reading from Variety, it states here that Rob Reiner was found dead Sunday afternoon in his Brentwood home alongside his wife, Michelle Singer. He was 78. The deaths are being investigated as a homicide, according to LAPD. The couple was reported to have been stabbed to death. And what's even more tragic and what's more heartbreaking is that they know who did it. And it actually turned out to be their son, Nick, who actually was the one who had stabbed his mom and dad. And the thing with Nick is that scarily enough, Nick is actually around my age. He's around like 32, 33 years old. And the thing with Nick is that he actually has a long history of drug addiction. Like even at the point where when he was like a young teenager, like when he was like 13, 14, 15 and stuff like that, he was like heavy on drugs and he was going back and forth in rehab. So with that kind of history, I guess it did ultimately lead up to where he would go and sadly commit this horrendous act. Now, to go into the life of Rob Reiner, he started out his career, or he began to have his big break where he got to play the role of where was it? Yeah, right over here, actually. In fact, let me go and read you from my source on Variety, where it states, the son of the noted writer, director, and comedian Carl Reiner, his first attracted attention as Mike Meathead Stivic, hippie son-in-law of Carol O'Connor's bigoted, blustering blue-collar worker Archie Bunker, during 9 seasons of CBS's topical sitcom All in the Family. He collected Emmys as Best Supporting Actor in a Comedy in 1974 and 1978. Now, of course, he started out a bit as an actor and following the footsteps of his dad, and he did get some small parts, including in the 1960s Batman series, but it really was because of All in the Family where he really got his big break and he really got his name out there. But eventually, over time, after doing more of these acting roles in stuff like Happy Days and the Smother Brothers Comedy Hour, he then went and brought his attention towards being a filmmaker. In fact, even in stuff like Happy Days and the Comedy Hour, he was actually noted to be a writer. But it wasn't until he went and did his movie debut where he would go and present himself as a filmmaker, as both as a director, a writer, and even one of the actors of This Is Spinal Tap. And the mockumentary really set him off to go and become a big name filmmaker, to the point that being in a Rob Reiner movie was a true honor. In fact, he pretty much peaked in the late 80s and the early 1990s, where if you go and look into his filmography, looking specifically at the stuff that he has directed, produced, and even wrote at times, the stuff that he did, like if you look at the beginning of his career between 1984 and 1992, these are not just fantastic movies. They're not just successful movies, but they are some of the most significant features of their time. Like, just listen to the movies that he has made. Like, these are very notable ones. Like, you got This Is Spinal Tap, The Sure Thing, Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Misery, and A Few Good Men. Now, it is true that following afterwards, his career didn't necessarily reach to the same levels as what it used to, because then after making North, that's when, well, his filmmaking career did go into a bit of a slope. There were a few highlights, of course, including The Bucket List with Morgan Freeman and Jack Nicholson, but Other than that, though, he has never really reached the heights that he had back in the day, but that still doesn't change that he was still a very honored and very respected filmmaker. And not to mention that many people have pointed out that there seems to be like this perfect tie-in to his career, where he started his filmmaking journey with This Is Spinal Tap, and he even ended his filmmaking career with a This Is Spinal Tap movie with Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues. And this is not even to go and mention the numerous of acting roles that he has also done for film and television as well. And on top of that, it is also worth noting that when it comes to Rob Reiner, he is also known to be a major progressive activist, where he is very passionate, not just in terms of filmmaking, but sorry, just need to clear my throat there. But he was also very passionate when it comes to human rights, where he would be a strong advocate for the rights of marginalized groups, whether it be for the LGBTQ plus community, for people of color, for women's rights, and several others. It was even worth noting that he even did some major contributions to this, where it even states right here, just to go and read a little bit from my source here on Wikipedia, that Reiner was a co-founder of the American Foundation for Equal Rights, which initiated court challenge against California Proposition 8 that banned same-sex marriage in the state, which the story came from WeHo Confidential. So just to go and highlight one example of the kind of political activism that he has done. And this is not even to mention that on top of fighting for the rights of people in need, of marginalized groups, he is also a strong advocate against nationalism, populism, modern conservatism, far-right extremism, and all that kind of stuff, especially noted to be a very vocal critic against Donald Trump, which I just want to go and state that I know there are those people that don't like me because I, quote-unquote, talk about politics, but I just want to go and state that if you don't like me when I, quote-unquote, talk about politics, y'all would not stand Rob Reiner. Y'all couldn't even survive a second of Rob Reiner discussing about real world issues and the problems with Republicans and Donald Trump. Like, no joke, the dude honestly makes me look apolitical because he does not apologize with whatever he has to say and the kind of criticisms that he would go and deliver. So in that regards, with Rob Reiner, yeah, like, the dude, safe to say he is he's very unapologetic in terms of his political stance and his progressive views that he wants to go and actually help out to make other people's lives better. But to go back into Rob Reiner in terms of him being a filmmaker, like, yes, like a lot of the political activism and stuff like that is very admirable for what he has done. But in terms of his filmmaking career, like, it's very rare that you would find a filmmaker who really is this jack of all trades, where this is the kind of guy who would go and he could pick up any script and he could really make some magic out of it. Because when we look back into his career, especially with some of the most notable films that he has done, like, they are vastly different from one another, but he knows how to make the execution strong. Like, he would go and really cover a variety of different genres and knows the kind of treatment that they deserve to have. Like when you look into something like This Is Spinal Tap, which is a comedic mockumentary, it's a lot more different than something like When Harry Met Sally, which is a rom-com, or it's a lot more different than Stand By Me, which is a drama that stars kids, or even Misery, where even though that's another Stephen King adaptation, Misery is a lot more suspense and even horror oriented. Or you look into The Princess Bride, in which that feature leans in more onto the fantasy. Or you got something like A Few Good Men that is a lot more of a hard courtroom drama. Like, this guy knew how to go and pick something up and really make it feel real, rather it be to make it feel real in a fun, enjoyable way, or make it feel real in a dramatic and relatable and emotional way. And as a result, he would go and create, as I said, like I said, these very, I wouldn't say revolutionary, but I think the best word is to say he made these very influential features. Even if you haven't seen any of these movies, then you definitely do know some of the lines that came out of them. In fact, some of the most memorable quotes in movie history came from Rob Reiner films. I'm sure there's a good chance that you have heard of the When Harry Met Sally quote of "I'm having what she's having," or maybe even in The Princess Bride. Like, that one has like a whole bunch of memorable quotes, and even some that have been turned into popular memes, rather it be like inconceivable being one of them, or also like, hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. And like several others as well. Like, there's a lot of them that really do stand out, and that to this day, people would go and quote, and that they would remember fondly when watching these kinds of films. And it's very interesting, by the way, considering that some of them have been noted to be very influential and beloved features, down to the point that Criterion has actually recently picked some of these movies up. Like, I think now, as part of the Criterion collection, you could go and find The Princess Bride, or even the original This Is Spinal Tap. And yeah, and like even wow, the chat wall is already starting to fill itself up with some of those popular quotes from Rob Reiner films. Like, you got "As You Wish," or "I want the truth. You can't handle the truth." That's another one. Like, a lot of these, again, regardless if you know these movies, if you've seen these movies, or if you've never seen them once, you have definitely heard of the quotes from these Rob Reiner films. It is safe to say that as influential as many of these movies are, Rob Reiner himself is a very influential filmmaker. And not to mention, like, the funny thing is, I'm actually going to go and find it, because the funny thing is that he himself also has a wonderful sense of humor, especially in terms of the movies that he would go and make. So I just want to go and quickly find it, because it was Tony Goldmark who actually shared this clip, and yeah, okay, I found it. It was okay, it's right over here. And there was a moment where Rob Reiner, he actually went and he was on the stage during a roast, and he had to go and read out Roger Ebert's famous review of North. And I figured it would be best to go and share this, like, considering that, Tony did help out to go and show us this clip, especially in this time. I think it's worth checking out over here. So just to go and show you the clip.
This is Roger Ebert. It's taken off the internet.
Read this paragraph.
Okay. All right. I hated this movie. Hated this movie. Hated it. Hated hated every simpering, stupid, vacant, audience-insulting moment of it. Hated the sensibility that thought anyone would like it. Hated the implied insult to the audience by its belief that anyone would be entertained by it. Well, I thought this, you know, if you read between the lines, it's not that bad.
Oh, man. And that's just an example of the kind of sense of humor that he has, and that he's not afraid to go and make fun of himself. Like, really, a lot of the stories related to Rob Reiner is that as a person, he definitely is a wonderful guy. In fact, if his progressive views isn't obvious enough that he's a good dude who does care about others, his sense of humor really does highlight that. So I just gotta say, overall, yeah, not only is this one of the most shocking deaths that did happen this year, but it's honestly one of the most unfortunate deaths that did happen this year just before it would go and close off. I mean, with Rob Reiner, he is like one of the most, as I said before, he's one of the most influential filmmakers in the modern era, and he has left such an amazing legacy of movies, rather it be many of his classics like The Princess Bride, A Few Good Men, This Is Spinal Tap, and more, or even some of his more recent ones like The Bucket List or Spinal Tap 2. This man has been noted to be quite a powerhouse, and I believe this is going to be one of those where it's going to be obvious that Hollywood is going to be left with a significant hole that it's hard to go and refill in, because with Rob Reiner, his influence that he has left and the legacy that he has left really did change Hollywood for the better. And I think there are going to be millions of people out there who are going to miss him. And at this point, I will say I am curious to see how the Oscars is going to react to this. And I know it sounds weird to suddenly get into the Oscars talk, but I think it's safe to say we are going to see a tribute moment to Rob Reiner, especially when, it's kind of funny because like this year's Oscars, or at the beginning of the year, like when the Oscars were presented, it's honestly kind of a dark coincidence considering that it was Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal who were announcing Best Picture because of the big anniversary of When Harry Met Sally. So from there, I think we're gonna see like a pretty big tribute to honor the legacy of Rob Reiner, or at the very least, in the in memoriam section, there's going to be a big part for Rob Reiner. So this is another one. May I say, may Rob Reiner rest in peace, and that his influence in Hollywood forever remains. So with that said, now I would like to go into the chat wall, and I'd like to go and ask you all, are there any memories you would like to share related to Rob Reiner? And if you have a favorite Rob Reiner movie, don't hesitate to go and share with all of us. I would like to know what you all think. All right, so let's see here. I was shocked to hear that Rob Reiner and his wife were murdered by their own son. I thought the death of Gene Hackman and his wife were tragic, but this is even worse. I enjoyed his films like A Few Good Men, Stand By Me, and Misery, but have yet to see films like When Harry Met Sally. I'll definitely check it out in his honor of him in terms of directing, acting, and political career. He was definitely good at making different genres, so may the legend rest in peace. Oh yeah, honestly, I would even say that being murdered by your own kid is honestly one of the worst and saddest ways to go. In fact, I actually knew a guy who experienced a very similar fate. Like, there was a card shop I used to go to, and it was run by like this eccentric guy who had this big personality, but it was actually a few years ago where he ended up meeting the same fate. He had a son that had some serious mental problems, and the son ended up stabbing both the guy and his wife. So yeah, it's just very heartbreaking when you hear something like that would occur. So it really did suck to that guy, and it really did suck with Rob Reiner as well. It's just, it's hard to really imagine it's hard to imagine another way that would be even worse to go than just that. It's like, it kind of feels like the ultimate betrayal in a sense. Let's see now. This is very unfortunate. This is almost as bad as Gene Hackman and his wife's death, but much worse. Reiner knows what he did as an actor and as a filmmaker. I do have The Princess Bride in the Criterion Collection, and he managed to get his film Oscar love, like A Few Good Men's Best Picture nomination and Kathy Bates' Best Actress win for Misery. No one deserves to die like that, and it's still a problem to this day, but may Rob and his wife rest in peace. And yes, I know I've been talking a lot about Rob Reiner, but his wife also deserves some honor and some respects as well during that time, especially when she ended up leaving her life in the same way. Let's see. May he rest in peace. Princess Bride is one of my favorite movies of his. Apparently a good bedtime story, since the framing of the story is literally a bedtime story told to Fred Savage. Can't forget the memorable quote, "Inconceivable," and hit him with a rock from Wallace Shawn, and appreciate Andre the Giant. Oh yeah, like with The Princess Bride, there is a lot to admire, but I think when it comes to all of these factors that really do work, a big part of it, with every single factor from the acting to the cinematography to the effects and all that kind of stuff, a big reason why it all worked is because of Rob Reiner. And just a quick side note, this is not even to mention the fact that he founded a company called Castle Rock Entertainment, which that also provided many more prominent movies that we have today. So yes, his influences in Hollywood goes even further than just the things that he was directly involved with. Because you look into the filmography of Castle Rock, there is a lot that they have done, including films like The Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile, that left a significant print in cinema history. All right, let's see what else we got. I remember when the news broke out, I was feeling a flurry of emotions. Heartbroken, horrified, dumbfounded, even a little angry. While this guy had his Norfs and his being Charlies, Rob Reiner's early run as a filmmaker was the stuff of legend, and his advocacy work was remarkable. If Jeff and Jim's death left a hole in the industry, Rob's death left a massive void. May he rest in peace. I don't even have a joke to end on this, just man, I know. I mean, like, again, keep in mind that, like, the death is still fresh. As I'm recording this, it hasn't even been like 24 hours since he was actually announced deceased. So this is still pretty fresh. And like, I understand if like some people out there, if you're watching or listening to this, that you still need time to like, register that this even happened in the first place. Like, I totally get it. Let's see now. What else do we have here? It's an absolute tragedy of the death of Rob Reiner. My personal favorite film of his is When Harry Met Sally, which I rewatched last month and absolutely fell in love with it again. I also have to highlight his comedic acting skills, since he was a great side character in TV shows like New Girl and movies like Wolf of Wall Street. I always loved his delivery in the latter, where he is angry. Sides? $26,000 worth of sides? Rest in peace, Rob. Yeah. And there's a lot of acting roles that many people have pointed out, not just in All in the Family, but yeah, there was also like a lot of memorable moments that he contributed in terms of acting, like with Wolf of Wall Street, and even like as we animation fans are, we got to find the voice acting role that he did. And of course, many people did point out how he played the role of Screwy in Everyone's Hero, as well as his Simpsons cameo. All right, I think I got time for one more comment to go and read here. Let's see now. This is very unfortunate. I'll admit I'm not hugely familiar with Rob Reiner as a director before now, but it is definitely a tragic loss. He definitely had made some influential movies, not to mention his major support for the LGBTQ plus community and his sense of humor. And the fact that he was murdered by his son is even more tragic. So overall, may he rest in peace and may his legacy live on forever. Actually, I'll read one more here. Hearing about what happened to Rob Reiner and his wife was absolutely shocking and heartbreaking to hear. I was a big fan of Spinal Tap and The Princess Bride growing up and got my inspiration for my sense of humor. Hearing that he's now gone is something I cannot accept, honestly, but I do hope his killer, allegedly his son, will seek the consequences he deserves. May he rest in peace. Yeah, I mean, again, this news is still fresh, but hopefully with not just with his fans, but I also want to state that with this and with what happened in Bondi, Australia, I really do wish the best for Jewish people out there, that they can go and have some time to actually heal during this Hanukkah season. I know it's really off to a very tragic and horrible start, but honestly, you people especially deserve nothing but love during this holiday season. And with that said, it is now time that we shall go on to our next break. Now that we have the memoriam section done, it is now time that we shall go into the news portion. We're going to get back into that. And we actually have some breaking news that actually just occurred just before I started this episode. So stay tuned for that. And I will go and discuss about a very weird spin-off movie idea. Welcome back. Now, originally, I was thinking that for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, I would go and have it be a shorter episode where I would just go and discuss about 4 stories instead of the usual 5. But then that all changed when this story occurred, and now this episode is pretty much the usual 5. And no joke, this story actually broke out just an hour before I went and officially started this episode. Like, this just came out of nowhere. This is still fresh out of the oven. And so far, I don't know what to think of it. It is such a bizarre idea. And just like, I don't know how else to react to it, but... So with that said, let's go and discuss about the live action Gaston spin-off movie. Yes, Deadline has reported that Disney is going to be making another live action remake, but this time more of a spin-off feature that's going to be focusing on one of their main villains. Specifically with this one, they want to go and make a spin-off live action feature of Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. Now, it is worth noting that we don't know much of the details so far. In fact, it is stated here, reading from my source on Deadline, where it states, while plot details are vague for this version, sources say it will be a new and original version with a new actor, meaning that Luke Evans is not going to be reprising his role like what he did in the 2017 remake. And the film will have swashbuckling tones to it. Insiders say the studio is high on the idea. Now, the movie doesn't have an actor yet on who's going to be playing Gaston, and also, we do not have an idea of who's going to be the director, but they did confirm on a producer and a writer. In fact, previously, Kate Herron and Briony Redman wrote a draft of the movie, but now the script, it is going to be written by Dave Callahan, as well as Michelle Redjuan producing the feature. Now, it's worth noting that with Michelle Rejwan, she has actually done a lot of work with Disney, specifically at Lucasfilm, where she actually went and produced a bunch of the recent Star Wars projects, both the features and even some of the series. These include The Force Awakens, Andor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, as well as The Rise of Skywalker. While Dave Callahan, on the other hand, he is hold on, I think, hold on. Whoa, boy. Okay. Okay. Excuse me for a sec. I need to go and blow my nose. Nose break time. Blowing my nose time. Okay. Oh boy. Much better. Okay. As I was saying, when it comes to Dave Callahan, you probably know him as the writer of many big name titles, as well as a lot of big name franchises. He has been noted to be a writer for films like Godzilla x Kong, for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, The Expendables, as well as being one of the writers of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and even the upcoming Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. Other than that, though, that's pretty much all that we know. That we got Dave Callahan writing, we got Michelle Rejwan producing, and that they want to make a live-action spin-off movie of Gaston. Which, by the way, this is going to be a completely separate thing. Like, they're kind of rebooting Beauty and the Beast again. This has no relation to the canceled series that they wanted to do that would have starred Gaston. And to give you a little bit of context on that, following the billion-dollar box office success of the 2017 live-action movie, there was discussions of a TV series centered on the character Gaston, with Evans reprising the role, but that project was scrapped. So, honestly, with all that said, honestly, I'm still trying to register the announcement of this, but I remember, I was just scrolling through Facebook a bit, and I saw, this immediately popped up, straight up breaking news, and when I saw that, I was just there going, huh? You want to do a movie on that? You legit, unironically want to do a Gaston movie? Okay, I'll just say right now, technically in a business perspective, I do get why they want to go and do it, especially when Disney has had success with these types of features before. Because what Disney wants to do is pretty much make another one of those villainous spin-off movies, kind of like what they have done with the Maleficent films as well as Cruella. And I just want to go and state right now that I personally am not a fan of the Maleficent movies at all. Even the first one, I think they are both among the weakest of the Disney live action remakes, and they've pretty much set the standards of what have made these remakes very much hated throughout the years. But then there is also Cruella, which I've already stated before that I actually did enjoy that movie. Honestly, it's kind of the opposite of Maleficent, where I do think Cruella is one of the better Disney live action remakes. Just ignore the fact that it's even based on 101 Dalmatians in the first place, and on its own, it's actually a pretty solid feature. So it did have that going for it. But either way, going back to the subject, to what I am talking about, pretty much what Disney wants to do is just another one of these, to make another Maleficent or another Cruella, but this time they want to do it with Gaston. And this is not even to mention how the popularity of villainous spin-off stories is now more popular than ever, especially with the massive success of the Wicked movies, both the first and what recently occurred with Wicked for Good. So because of the popularity of those two features, of course, Disney would want to go and try to continue continue that trend and try to make more, possibly go and make more of these. And now they want to go and add Gaston into the mix as well. But with that said, though, honestly, I just find it to be such a perplexing and weird idea. Like, honestly, okay, you want to go and try to make a movie that centers on Gaston. All right, fine, whatever. But it's just, why Gaston specifically? Like, why not go, like, honestly, if you want to go and make another villainous spin-off movie, I feel like another one that might have some potential would actually be Ursula. Make some kind of like Ursula prequel movie and tell us the story of how she ultimately became the sea witch that we all know. Now, rather, if you want to go and actually do some kind of like reboot and like rewrite the whole thing, like maybe that's your choice. But I feel like there's a lot of potential with what you can do if you would want to go and do like an Ursula spin-off movie. But in the case here with Gaston, and by the way, just a quick side note, like, some people might think there could also be Scar, but then again, considering what they've recently done with Mufasa and how they've already covered the backstory of him in there as well, along with Mufasa, I guess we can we already had that base cover, so I don't think they're going to do another one of those. But with Gaston, though, it's just, I just find it so strange, especially with the idea if you're going to go and try to present Gaston in a heroic light. And in that aspect, that I find like, maybe it's just how things are today, but it's just the timing just doesn't feel right. I don't know if I really want a Gaston movie, especially if you're going to be portraying him as the hero, like what the provincial town sees in him. Because the thing is with Gaston, like, he is the personification of toxic masculinity. Like, that's what makes him such a memorable and even a bit of a terrifying villain, is because of how real that he feels. That Gaston can be the type of villain that we can actually see in our everyday lives, especially with the kind of ego and entitlement that he has and the way that he would present his brand of masculinity, where he would put himself above everyone else and feeling like he deserves the best all the time, no matter what, and just cannot handle it if anybody would go and say no to him. Like, when you get a villain like that, and when you have those toxic traits that are honestly more prominent than ever, that we are seeing in real life villains right now, with people like Elon Musk and Donald Trump sharing those types of traits, are you sure you want to take that kind of person and try to go and make him be viewed as a hero? Like, even if you would go and try to rewrite his backstory and you want to portray him as more sympathetic, as more heroic, and a lot less narcissistic, it's just going to be weird, because the differences are going to be massively strong and massively noticeable. Like, it feels like the kind of movie that you're going to portray Gaston as a hero and people are going to see it like, it's like, that's not Gaston. That he's definitely not like that. The real Gaston wouldn't go and behave that way. He wouldn't be he wouldn't be so like gentle. He wouldn't be so nice. Nah, the real Gaston, he would be a lot more assertive, like he would be the kind of guy who would not care about anybody's consent on anything. And honestly, I kind of feel like just the idea alone of trying to make a Gaston movie and showing him as more heroic, it kind of feels a lot like what we are seeing right now with what Republicans are desperately trying to do with Charlie Kirk, where ever since he passed away, Republicans have been so desperate to put in such a positive light on the guy and try to portray him as like this American hero and stuff like that. But most people would look at that and just think about the reality of who he actually is, and think about the bigotry and the hatred that he had gone and spread out in his entire life, where the most that he has done is just go and encourage people to literally become neo-Nazis, especially with the kind of white Christian nationalist ideologies that he would go and spread. Like, pretty much the grand majority of people, including in America, would see what Republicans are trying to do with Charlie Kirk and say, nah, man, he ain't a hero. And pardon my language, but Charlie Kirk is nothing but a worthless, deplorable cunt. And honestly, I feel like that's what Disney is trying to do. You know, they're taking such a deplorable asshole like Gaston and just try to portray him as a hero, try to go and rewrite his story in a way that honestly, I just feel like it just doesn't work. You know, I just don't really see this as an idea that could really work out, especially in this day and age when the problematic aspects of Gaston are very much real and very prominent in our real world today with how some people behave. Now, with that said, though, I will say that yes, there is a chance that this could work. Maybe there is a possibility that Disney could actually go and find the right director and find the right actor for this, as well as Dave Callahan would have the ability to go and provide a great script for this, where maybe this concept could actually work out. But honestly, I'm just in the position where I'm still trying to let this sink in to know how this could work. And honestly, I feel like even though I am open to the possibility that maybe this idea could turn out to be good, I'm just personally in a position where I need a lot of convincing to tell me that maybe this Gaston idea could actually have some potential. Because from the way that I see it, do I want a Gaston live action spin-off movie? Absolutely not. No. I think it's honestly a bad idea. And if you want to go and do these kinds of films, that's perfectly okay. But I could think of numerous of other Disney villains that you could go and actually make your spin-off film before you would go and make Gaston. Hell, I would even say that a King Magnifico spin-off movie sounds like a much better idea than a Gaston movie. Honestly, say what you will about Magnifico, but honestly, I feel like he's better to go and have some materials that you could go and update and actually portray him as a hero more so than Gaston. So honestly, I'm just in that position where, like, honestly, you gotta really try hard to convince me, because I'm pretty much leaning heavily on the pessimistic side on this idea alone. So with that said, now I would like to go and pass this on to the chat wall, and I want to ask you all, what do you all think of a Gaston live action spin-off movie? Do you guys disagree with me and think that this could actually have some great potential and this could work? Or do you think that this might end up being a complete lost cause? In fact, I'm going to go and actually write down a poll for you all. And I want to go and actually ask you, do you think, hold on a sec. Do you think a Gaston spin-off movie would work? So I want to see what you guys have to say. So I'll write down yes, and then I'll write down no, and let's see what the chat wall has to say. All right, so what if they use this film to have the Gaston film be a mockery of right-wing idiots like Musk and Trump instead of celebrating Trump? Like, portray him as an idiotic buffoon. I don't think Disney would be this stupid to celebrate Gaston's actions in a good film. P.S. Trump is a disgusting person, even more for his comments about Rob Reiner. Honestly, with the things that we know about Trump, like his comments on Rob Reiner, honestly is one of the nicer things about Trump. Trust me. There are like what he said is horrible, but I mean, it's predictable from Trump. What we know about him, especially with the new things that came out from the Epstein files, including many of those photos, oh yeah, trust me, there are a lot more prominent things to go and point out how much of an evil monster that Donald Trump is that justifies my comment and the comparison that he is pretty much as evil as Osama bin Laden. Don't get mad on me just for stating facts on that. All right. Anyways, but as for your comment on what you said about Gaston, honestly, that could be an idea, like basically to mock the toxic masculinity that Gaston could go and portray. But I don't know if that sounds like the actual direction that they are actually going, considering that they did mention they want to include a lot of swashbuckling action. So in that regards, it does lean into the idea that maybe they would go and portray Gaston as a hero. I don't know. It's just, again, I still need more convincing. Let's see now. Yeah, I find this idea to be very weird. Why make a Gaston spin-off movie, though? To appeal to young boys for the action? To get young girls to be attracted to this man? Or to portray him in a positive light? If it is for the latter, I think it's not going to work, given how he treats women, particularly with Belle in the movie, like they are trophies to him. It's a wait and see for me, but for now, I'm not on board with it. Exactly. Like, we need to open up to the possibility that maybe this could work out, because we never know in the future, and there is a chance that, well, maybe it could actually turn out to be better than we thought. But for what we're thinking right now, this Gaston movie is just, ain't working out. Anyways, I am honestly not really a fan of this idea. As much as I think Gaston is an excellent villain and definitely one of Disney's best, considering how he's portrayed in the animated film, not to mention his toxic masculinity and how people feel to this day, in this day and age, about that kind of behavior. So overall, I'm not on board with this. Also, I feel like Disney is trying to find an excuse to continue capitalizing on Beauty and the Beast. Also, I'll admit I didn't think Evans was that bad in the film. Oh, no. Honestly, when it comes to the live action remake of Beauty and the Beast, I think Luke Evans is actually one of the better aspects. He actually did a pretty good job playing as Gaston. It's just the materials he had to work with was, kind of crap. But yeah. But one thing I will say, though, I don't think it really is capitalizing on Beauty and the Beast. I think it's more capitalizing on Wicked. I think it's more trying to go and capitalize on the idea of rewriting famous movie villains and try to portray them more as good. And by the way, just a quick side note, I did check out the poll, and apparently with the results that we have, it's not unanimous, but the grand majority of you who have voted, specifically 89% who did vote, actually say that no, this is not a good idea. Although 11% did state that maybe there could be some potential. Interesting. Anyways, the idea of Gaston getting his own live-action movie, just like Cruella, sounds fascinating, because Gaston is considered one of the comedic elements of Beauty and the Beast, and should be created in a mainly comedic tone. Not only should Alan Menken be on board to provide the music, but I hope that we'll get to see the live-action version of Every Last Inch of Me is Covered with Hair. Comedic? Well, maybe there are some comedic moments, but I mean, the thing with Gaston is, I'm not denying that there isn't funny moments with Gaston, but a lot of the punchlines with Gaston is when he would go and get the receiving end of the gags. It's mostly the parts when things don't go in Gaston's way is where it would become funny. So yeah, at that point, I don't know, making a comedic movie, it sounds a bit odd, but then again, this whole idea is odd as is, so who knows at that point. Oh, let's see. Disney, seriously, is this an idea for a movie, a Gaston live action movie that will be like Pirates of the Caribbean? I get they wanted a villains movie, but this is still weird. A Pirates of the Caribbean. Honestly, that doesn't sound inaccurate, because I know Disney from time to time, they desperately want to try to reclaim the glory of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and they have been trying to recapture that lightning in a bottle, even making more, even making more movies based on rides. Like when you see the Pirates, when you see the Jungle Cruise movie, and it really does have that Pirates of the Caribbean tone, or they want to try to do a little bit of the same thing with the Haunted Mansion back in 2023. But still, though, like I would not be surprised if Disney would try to make Gaston their next big swashbuckler after Jack Sparrow. That could be a possibility. Let's see. A live action Gaston movie, because nobody deserves a live action movie like Gaston. This sounds, I mean, what even the hell is this idea? Granted, this isn't the worst idea I've heard, but then again, the way he treats women makes him feel he's on the Epstein list. This movie sounds so dated that the only way it could be done correctly is if it were ironically. Yeah, maybe. Like if you make a whole satire, like I know some people have mentioned this before, but like that could be a possibility, but I don't know, man. I think I'll read one more comment and then we're going to move on to the next break. I have no thoughts on this movie, but all I could say is, why Disney? Why a Gaston movie? I just don't see the point of seeing a Gaston movie happen. I would rather see an Ursula movie, a Queen of Hearts movie, or even a Hades movie. I just don't see the point of seeing a Gaston movie. I just feel like it ruins the magic of Beauty and the Beast, but I could be wrong. If it does good, then I'll probably be convinced, but overall, I'm definitely not on board to see a Gaston movie. Well, I mean, I don't think our pessimism is going to stop Disney from making the feature, but again, I feel like it's going to require a lot of convincing from Disney in order to prove to us that maybe a Gaston movie would be worthwhile. All right, so with that said, we're going to go on to one more break, and when we do come back, we're going to go into another Disney story, but this time around, well, let's just say that this will make the Gaston movie actually sound pretty good. Now stay tuned and we are going to get into the grand finale. And now, everyone, it is time that we will cap this episode off with the grand finale. And for this grand finale, well, I'm just going to go and get this out of the way. The best thing that I could go and say about it is that technically, this is not the worst news that happened in the past week. Ooh. In fact, it's already gotten me choked up right there. But anyways, back to what I was saying. The thing is that, yes, there have been worse things that did recently occur that I've already discussed about in this episode. Rather it be the passings of Jeff Garcia and Jim Ward on the same day due to health complications, the terrorist attack in Bondi, Australia, as well as the sudden passing of Rob Reiner. I think it is safe to say that those are significantly worse than what I'm about to talk about here. But that still doesn't change that what they're doing here is still kind of bad. And honestly, it's pretty crazy to see how Disney is just doubling down on this idea. And trust me, I do have some choice words that I would like to say here. So with that said, let's go ahead and talk about Disney's dumbest billion-dollar investment. Yes, specifically to go and read you here from my source on Variety, because they actually did put it best here. The Walt Disney Company and OpenAI reached an agreement for Disney to become the first major content licensing partner on Sora, OpenAI's short-form generative AI video platform, bringing the companies together to unlock new possibilities in imaginative storytelling, in which Disney has actually invested $1 billion for a 3-year deal with OpenAI in order to do this. What specifically? Well, to go and continue, it's the first instance of Disney licensing its intellectual property to an AI platform. As part of the 3-year licensing agreement, Sora will be able to generate short, user-prompt social videos that can be viewed and shared by fans from a set of more than 200 masked, animated, or creature characters from Disney, Marvel, Pixar, and Star Wars, including costumes, props, vehicles, and iconic environments. In addition, ChatGPT images will be able to turn a few words typed in by a user into fully generative images in seconds, drawing from the same intellectual property. So that's pretty much the big deal that Disney wants to go and do with OpenAI. It's to go and really help out Sora in terms of generating their animated characters, or even just the characters that they own, regardless if they're from Disney Animation, if they're from Pixar, if they're from their live action films, if they're from Star Wars, if they're from Marvel, and so on and so forth. It is also worth noting, by the way, there is one part that I want to go and highlight here, because the article would then go and discuss about Disney and OpenAI's partnership and what they want to do to go and help each other out, including Disney wanting to see where else they can go and implement AI onto their business. Oops, sorry. Don't know if you heard that. But anyways, there is one part that I do want to go and highlight, by the way. And where is it? Yes, right over. No. What was it again? Fudge. I'm drawing a blank. I thought it was one thing, but then where is it? Yeah. Okay. It's right over here, actually. I think I went a little too quickly, but it is worth noting, and this is going to be something that I will be repeating here, that Disney said the agreement does not include any talent likenesses or voices. Furthermore, the pact does not allow OpenAI to use Disney intellectual property in the training of its AI models, nor does it link Sora users' account with any Disney accounts, including Disney+. Now, we also got a couple of quotes that I like to go and read you here. One being from the CEO of Disney, Bob Iger, in which he states right over here, technological innovation has continuously shaped the evolution of entertainment, bringing with it new ways to create and share great stories with the world, Iger said in a statement. The rapid advancement of artificial intelligence marks an important moment for our industry, and through this collaboration with OpenAI, we will thoughtfully and responsibly extend the reach of our storytelling through generative AI while respecting and protecting creators and their works. Well, which one is it, Bob? I don't think you can do both. Bringing together Disney's iconic stories and characters with OpenAI's groundbreaking technology puts imagination and creativity directly into the hands of Disney fans in ways we've never seen before, something you are going to massively regret, giving them richer and more personal ways to connect with the Disney characters and stories they love. And we also do have a quote here from the co-founder and CEO of OpenAI, Sam Altman, in which he states here, Disney is the global gold standard for storytelling, and we're excited to partner and allow Sora and ChatGPT images to expand the ways people create and experience great content. This agreement shows how AI companies and creative leaders can work together responsibly to promote innovation that benefits society, respect the importance of creativity, and help works reach vast new audiences. Now, this seems rather shocking that Disney would do, because lately, when we have been hearing news about the Walt Disney Company and AI, we have been hearing a lot about how Disney is actually going against those companies, specifically like going after them with lawsuits and even going after them with cease and desists. Now, yes, that is true, and even this article here actually did point that out. In which it went and stated right over here, on a separate front, amidst the dramatic rise of AI, Disney has unleashed its lawyers to go after tech companies it believes are stealing its IP. On Wednesday, Disney sent a cease and desist letter to Google, alleging Google's AI platforms have resulted in copyright infringement of Disney's IPs on a massive scale. Disney has sent similar legal notices to Meta and Character.ai, and Disney, together with NBC Universal and Warner Bros. Discovery, has filed a lawsuit on AI companies Midjourney and Minimax alleging copyright infringement. And that is the key word here. They're going after them for copyright infringement. It's not because they're against the technology itself. They're pretty much against other people using their property. And the thing with AI is that it's hard to really control their likenesses being used onto those kinds of technology. And that's kind of like that for me, I feel like is my personal theory as to why Disney is even doing this deal with OpenAI in the first place. It's the fact that what Disney wants is full-on control. In fact, Disney has been notorious with wanting control to ensure that everything just goes their way. And when it comes to AI, what Disney wants is that they want to be sure that they are in control of the way that their characters and the iconography of their properties are portrayed in a way that they specifically want. And from there, Disney also wants to make sure that they can also go and capitalize on it to make sure that their brand still stays fresh and it still remains the same and not be tainted in any other ways. And with the way that AI is right now, it could be extremely easy to do so. So that's what I believe is what Disney is trying to do with this whole billion-dollar investment. It's the fact that what they want is control. Now, funny enough, though, quite recently, actually, I did talk about this with Anthony Gramuglia when he was in the podcast as a guest very recently, and we discussed about the whole thing with Disney thinking about the idea of having AI or having this Sora-like technology onto Disney Plus and how much of a bad idea that this is. Because as much as Disney wants control over the way that their characters are portrayed with AI, it's pretty much impossible to do so. Even with the technology as is right now, what people are going to do is always push the limits no matter what. And this is going to be something that Disney will learn the hard way, because with the internet being the internet, just to go and repeat what me and Anthony have said recently, there will be those people who will go and test how far and how extreme they can go and get away with using Disney characters with AI. And of course, one of the first things they will go and do is try to be as explicit as possible. Rather it be with having the Disney princesses be on like crazy orgies, or have Stitch go and mutilate a known politician and just tearing him limb to limb in a really bloody and gory way. There will be those people who will go and really try that out with the Disney characters. They will try to experiment with the materials they provide with how much they can go and get away with until the technology itself would go and step in just to go and say no. So in that regards, it feels like a fight that no matter what, no matter how big the company is and no matter how much money Disney is going to give them, they are going to lose. And this is not to mention the insane aspect of the fact that Disney is giving $1 billion to OpenAI just to go and do this senseless technology thing. Like, honestly, as a Disney fan, I can literally think of hundreds of things that Disney should do with the money instead. Like, there are plenty of other things where the money would have been better spent for things that fans have been demanding for so long, or things that could, you know, actually benefit the company and actually benefit the people working there as well. Like, one example I can think of is that with that $1 billion, Disney could have fixed the Yeti. And for those of you who don't know, there's a popular meme amongst Disney adults where they would go and demand for Disney to go and fix the Yeti from the Animal Kingdom roller coaster Expedition Everest. Because when the ride opened back in 2006, there was a Yeti animatronic that's like really massive. And at the end of the ride, you would see the Yeti like come at you, like not touch you, but like you see it moving as it tries to grab you. But then not long afterwards, they decided that they don't want the Yeti to go and move because then it would go and hurt the foundation of the attraction itself. So for many years now, they decided to go and turn it off completely. And instead they decided to go and just portray the static Yeti with strobe lights, which is why the Yeti now has the nickname Disco Yeti. But still, it doesn't change that people have been demanding that Disney would go and fix the Yeti so that he could be moving again. And with that $1 billion, Disney could have honestly done that. Disney could have honestly used that $1 billion to not just fix the Yeti, but even just go and rebuild Expedition Everest from the ground up to make sure that the Yeti could go and work again. Like, trust me, $1 billion is more than enough to go and actually accomplish that task. Or even another example, they could go and bring back Journey into Imagination in its original glory, or even better than ever. They could bring back Dreamfinder. They could bring back Figment like how they used to be, even add in new scenes to that attraction to make the original Journey into Imagination bigger and better, and no longer have to deal with what we got now with Dr. Nigel Channing and the misadventures that Figment would have where he would turn into a skunk and fart on the audience. Or even like in terms of animation, Disney could have used that $1 billion to invest it on other pieces of technology to go and create new visual styles that could really enhance the storytelling of what Disney animation or what Pixar could do. And I know that Disney and Pixar have been doing that. Like, we've seen a little bit with what they have done with Wish, for example, or they even promised that they're going to do some of that with Gato in 2027. But still, though, like with that $1 billion, you could go and create new technology in order to go and present like these new wicked styles that we've never seen before, or could even surpass some of the things that Sony has done, like with Mitchell's or Spider-Verse or whatever. Like that $1 billion could have also been spent onto that as well. Or hell, you might as well go and like spend that $1 billion like trying to think of another, or actually, you know what, you could have spent that $1 billion on your cast members, you know, bump up their salaries a little bit, make it a little bit more livable, you know, to actually give them a more livable wage. You know, that $1 billion could also be spent on that as well. The point that I'm making is that there are so many other things that Disney could go and spend. Or even another example, you could spend that $1 billion to bring back freaking Muppet Vision 3D. That's another idea that you could go and do. But the point that I'm making is that there are so many other things that Disney could go and do and spend that $1 billion elsewhere. I think what Disney ultimately lost with this is that they lost the ability to go and actually use budget as an excuse. They can no longer go and tell anyone like, oh, we cannot do that. It would be too expensive to do so. What the hell do you mean, Disney? You can most certainly go and you could definitely go and actually spend the money on that. If you could spend $1 billion on AI, then you could easily spend the money on anything else. So in that regards, I think Disney, the thing is, Disney is still a very rich company. They still have over billions of dollars. And if they got money to burn that they could go and give to AI, they certainly have the money to go and give it to pretty much everything else at that point. But I will say, though, the thing is with all of this, like with the fact that now Disney is still going into AI, even though they do know how much people absolutely despise AI and that there can be an aspect where it can hurt part of their business, I think I'm pretty much at the point where I'm just going to say, honestly, if Disney really wants to use the AI technology, let them. And I'm not saying let them off the hook. What I'm saying is that let them learn the hard way of why this is a bad investment. And eventually that $1 billion is just as good as gone and they're going to get nothing in return, or worse, they're just going to be getting a lot of trouble in return. Basically, Disney is pretty much like that Neanderthal who would see a fire and they keep wanting to stick their hand to it. You could keep like reeling them back and try to explain to them that no, don't put your hand in the fire because it's going to burn and it will hurt. And it's not going to register in their head. So the best thing that you can do is just let them go and do it. Let them put their hand in the fire and let them learn the hard way that their hand is going to burn and that, yes, it will indeed hurt. I feel like that's right now the only way they are really going to learn. Because if they really want Disney characters to be used on Sora, oh boy, I don't think Disney is going to enjoy the results that they are going to have, because again, with how the internet is going to be, there will be those people who will forever continue push the limits of what they can do with these Disney characters and make them be as explicit as possible, to the point that they're just going to keep on making them do things that are, well, I guess you could say off-brand to the Disney image. And that's when Disney will have to go and reconsider. So overall, it's pretty much at the point where there's no point in lecturing Disney as to why this is a bad idea. Everybody knows for a fact that being involved with a horrible company like OpenAI and a very problematic CEO like Sam Altman, like, it's just a recipe for disaster. And honestly, if Disney is going to ignore it and they're just going to continue to pursue it, then you know what? Let them learn the hard way why this is going to be a $1 billion mistake. And if it will take $1 billion for Disney to realize, oh, that money is now completely gone, we are screwed, then at that point, it's probably for the best. Overall, that's what I'm hoping for. That honestly, you let them do it, you let them realize that it's a massive disaster, and you just hope that they're going to learn something out of it. All right, so with that said, now I would like to go onto the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you think about Disney making a $1 billion deal with OpenAI? What do you think the outcome is going to be, and how disastrous do you think it's going to be? Because I think it is safe to say I don't think there's going to be anyone in the chat wall who thinks that, no, I disagree with you, man. I think this is going to be a great thing that Disney will be teaming up with OpenAI. Nah, you're never going to see any of those comments. Trust me. All right, so let's see what we got here. Did Disney seriously not learn from the time they added Darth Vader chatbot in Fortnite? Like, what do they think is going to happen? It's going to be the second coming of Elsa Gate with the amount of cursed content that's going to come out of it. This just feels two-faced of them. Yeah, it definitely is. Like, oh boy. Yeah, again, like, it's a stupid move, but, stupid moves cause stupid results. So you just have to hope for the best that Disney learns from the stupid results. Let's see now. This honestly makes me feel so upset. The fact that Disney would spend that kind of money to work with OpenAI is just awful. And because of this, how we'll see people do some of the most messed up things with their characters. And the only thing I see this is just backfire in their face. And this is just continuing to give Bob Iger and Disney a bad name. Seriously, between this and Jimmy Kimmel controversy, they have gained such a bad reputation this year. Yeah, a bit. I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's like the worst, honestly, because I mean, Disney has recently had some great successes, like we've just seen with Zootopia 2, and there's probably another one coming very soon with Avatar Fire and Ash. But still, though, yeah, I do get it. Like, there are some things, though, like with this and the Jimmy Kimmel controversy, when things got bad with Disney, it is a nightmare for their PR. Let's see now. Out of all the entertainment news this week, this has got to be the stupidest one of them all. Seriously, what does Disney benefit from this? And from the fact that they're spending $1 billion on this is ridiculous. Safe to say, I'm not on board with this deal. Although my highlight of this week's news was the Magic Tree House animated series. That sounds a lot better than this. All right, fair enough. Let's see now. Okay, I'll go. Wait, did I just... No, I just read that one. What has been going on with Disney with them this year? There are so many downs with them as a copy. I wonder which Disney story will be in your top 5 story this year. Also, not only this past week, Disney should have deserved this AI backlash, but I even say Time Magazine should as well, as they named AI the Person of the Year. Speaking of the attractions that you mentioned, I don't know if you answered this, but have you seen the Defunct Land documentary on living characters? Yes, I have. And like I said to my friends, like we discussed this privately, but as a Disney fan, I don't need a 4-hour documentary to tell me that the Living Character Initiative is honestly full of crap. It's nothing but just broken dreams left and right. And even if Disney did announce that new walking Olaf animatronic, it does look impressive, I'll give them that. But how long is that going to last in the parks? I don't know. I feel like, honestly, when Disney promises stuff like this, like, oh, we're going to get walking animatronics, I'm just there like, yeah, I'll see it when I believe it, when I'll actually be there, okay? Like, yeah, you could say that, but normally they don't last forever. In fact, they don't even last a year, let alone a month. Let's see. What else do we have here? All the nation levels of dough, and instead of supporting LGBTQ plus communities or actors and writers for substantial wages, Disney would rather fund AI thievery and carbon footprints that make NFTs look like septic tanks. We had a South Park episode that highlight how AI can be weaponized to generate revenge porn, sexual and violent alike. The protests akin to Jimmy Kimmel will be glorious. I don't know if I'll admit, I don't know if the backlash on this is going to be as big as the Jimmy Kimmel one, honestly. But there's no denying that there is like backlash that they are getting for sure. And yeah, I forgot to go and mention that there are also a lot of people who are concerned about this, especially a lot of union groups, especially like with SAG-AFTRA and the Animation Guild. They have also expressed a lot of their concerns about like what this could mean about the works of their members. Like, I know Disney did say that they're not going to be using the likenesses or the voices or whatever, but still though, it's like, can you really trust OpenAI for them not to go and copy those kinds of likenesses? It's like, yeah, Disney says so, but I don't know if that's going to be true. All right, I think I'm going to read one more comment and then we'll go and cap off this episode. Let's see now. I am disgusted that Disney is openly more investing into AI for their content. They could have spent their money over anything else besides AI, and this is gonna end up backfiring the company even more, especially when compared to how they tried to cancel Jimmy Kimmel earlier this year. The more we see Bob Iger gone, the better. Glad I appeared on this episode while I'm on vacation at the moment, so I wish everybody, including you, Matt, a happy holidays. And with that said, folks, I think that is a very nice note to go and cap this off on. And with that said, that should do it for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Thank you all so much for joining me on this. And in case I don't see you again next week, then I just want to go and say happy holidays to you all, and I'll see you next time in 2026. But in the meantime, though, if you enjoyed your time on AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, don't forget to go and subscribe to the AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast YouTube channel or to the AniMat Live Twitch channel. But at the same time, if you are listening to me on whatever podcast service you're listening to, rather it be on Spotify or on Amazon, Apple, and many, many more, don't forget to go and follow me there. And so with all that said, I would like to say thank you all so much for listening, and thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, see you later, dudes.